Some breaking news for you now from the Office for National Statistics. The UK inflation rate has fallen to 3.6% in the year to October. That is down from 3.8% in September. Still almost twice the Bank of England's target of 2%, bearing in mind. But at least a change and a move in the right direction. Duncan Barks is here in the studio with us. Duncan Barks, what's your reaction to that figure of 3.6%?
A teeny weeny bit of good news for our Chancellor Rachel Reeves ahead of next Wednesday's budget. Of course, the knock-on effect for this, hopefully, will be at some point interest rates might dip, which is good news if you've got a mortgage, not so good if you're a saver. You're right to point out the Bank of England's target is 2%, and also we should put on the record that when the Conservative government left office in July 2024, the figure was 2%. So it has been quite stubbornly stuck at 3.8% for the last 3 months in a row. But the announcement just made, it drops to 3.6. So, as I say, Rachel Reeves will be smiling over her Weetabix this morning with a small smile.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GB News to start protecting yourself digitally today.
And we've just heard about inflation, which has dropped to 3.6%. So that's down from 3.8%. Hardly significant, but certainly in the right direction, Justin.
Well, that's about the only thing you can say about it. We were expecting it to be lower. But it'd be nice to be a bit lower than that. But yes, all of in forward indicators, look, it's lower and slower. That's okay. But nonetheless, as you're pointing out, it's still nowhere near the target that was supposed to be at 2%. There are still inflationary pressures out there. And of course, remember our original boost of inflation came from the Russian issue over gas and oil. And so that could easily change very quickly indeed. So I'm afraid it's bad news is it hasn't come down. Good news is actually it's still high enough for the Bank of England to say we're going to carry on with the rate cutting, which is important. Rates are still too high here. They should have been cut a long time before. Yes. Because the key issue we've got to deal with this, and we'll see it in the budget, that vital word of confidence. Yeah. Everybody at the moment, they look outside, it's raining, it doesn't look very nice. It's a very good reason not to be confident. We had to actually search around and say, actually, there are some things here we are quite good at. We're still setting up small businesses. We're still very good at high-tech areas. We know that because people are coming and buying the companies. So actually, those are the areas. Give people a bit more encouragement to say, we're not doomed, damaged. And I get fed up with people saying Britain's broken. Britain's still working. We're a bit dented and bashed around a bit, but actually an awful lot of things still actually going quite well.
Delving into these figures this morning, just having a look here, energy price rises are easing, but food costs are up. Why is food inflation just...
One of the
it
problems...
keeps increasing.
Well, a lot of it, of course, isn't under our control. Take the train now up to Peterborough. What do you see? Those lovely fenlands covered in solar panels. Not actually covered in what should be growing there, which is food elements. Yes, a lot of our sort of soft food, tomatoes, salads and this and that, of course, does not normally come from where we are, but a lot of polytunnels and things like that. But we're not growing as much as we used to. It was much easier for us to be able to bring it in.
That's deliberate government policy.
Well, it is frustrating because actually what you do, you need to encourage more farming and farmers. And we've seen over the past 2 years, particularly with the issue over taxation of inheritance for smaller farmers, active
this
discouragement.
government couldn't purport to be a friend of farmers.
And, for everything, if you want to support be helpful to the environment, through to actually helping the economy, actually having cheaper food, you would think that's what you want to be able to try and do. And you've got people who are willing to go out and do it. Frankly, it's an awful job, 365 days a year, being a farmer. You don't just sort of say, I think we'll stop the farm for a couple of months and go somewhere else. It doesn't work like that.
And do you think the Chancellor will be able to claim some sort of victory or moral stance on these figures today in the budget next week?
Yeah, she'll point to a direction of travel. And so it's easing off. And, of course, comparison with other people, our inflation is round about the same level. When you're down to changes of figures like this, 0.1, 0.2, they're rounding errors. And as you'll see with the growth figures as well, they get rechanged after they get re-looked at every month. And basically every quarter you look back and you see the more significant changes. And so what you're going to be seeing is stubborn inflation at the moment. And you're not going to see too much... I think improvement of that for the time being. The best thing to hang on to is lower interest rates and now come out with a budget which is going to be encouraging for the key area, smaller businesses, our biggest employer in this country. Mm-hmm. That's the area we need to focus on. And larger businesses, I know they have a difficult time, but you're also important. But get rid of the smaller businesses and those particular ones on the high street, you're going to have more trouble.
Justin, I spent the last 10 days in Northern Ireland. And, a lot of socialising and mixing with people who run small businesses and particularly, what would you say, hostleries, restaurants and bars and that sort of thing. My God, they just believe nobody's listening to them. Yeah. They can't hire people, they can't employ people, their costs, their rates, their whatever. And, people are saying to me simply, there is no profit in food. There's no profit in food for them. There's no profit in drink for them. No. And what do? They're just closing up. And the government is allowing these establishments to close their doors. We talk about pubs are closing, pubs are winding up. They're winding up because they can't make any money. Yeah,
and what's it going to be replaced with? The answer is, well, nothing. You're just going to see at the moment either pop-up shops or charity shops and things like that, and it's being decimated, and it doesn't come back anytime soon.
No.
What you've got to try and do, and I've seen some areas where they have is to try and manage those inner city areas, getting more people to live in the inner city area. One area I know in London where they actually did bring in more flats in the inner city, but unfortunately, they actually allowed it for overseas investors. So an awful nice people from South East Asia bought them, don't live in them.
Belfast is like unrecognisable. Student accommodation everywhere. And what happens if these students, don't take up these apartments and these flats, or the situation changes sometime in the future? What I know is they're not building shops, they're not opening department stores, they're not doing... It's so changing, so changing.
And particularly when you look in Belfast as well, they've got a big success of a tech hub, which they don't really talk about too much. And I'm trying to highlight with them. They've got some great stories there, but it needs more attention in our time, and therefore attracting more people in. They have to go out and sell it positively. And not just in terms of more students coming in, but businesses following on from that, and businesses setting up locally, making sure they've got access to investment finance. So I would like to see Ulster actually, in many ways, saying, look, London, we know you're not going to do very much for us. Why don't we have our own investment facility, our regional enterprise investment scheme for Ulster, and do that for other areas of the United Kingdom as well?
That's another story, and the story is that I want to highlight is who represents you in Scotland, in Wales, in England, in Northern Ireland, because I know people are so hacked off with their politicians in Northern Ireland. They believe they're just into the old issues of orange and green. And the real business that Justin was talking about there just doesn't get done. they don't seem to have an appetite or an interest or knowledge.
Knowledge is crucial. Look at our cabinet of the British government at the moment. Anybody in business? Anyone had experience of business? Definition of running a small business: waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning in a cold sweat, wondering if you've still got one, because you've had to put your house on the line, you've had to put your family on the line. It's a risky business.
Okay.
Give those people some strength and support. Don't make life more
Final
difficult.
point from you, because we're going to debate this next. Foreign aid, is it a waste of public money?
Well, is it an issue? Is it just our conscience? We feel we've got to be doing it. Is it also we're putting foreign aid in because we benefit from it because actually the contracts come back the other way? Nothing wrong with that, as long as you actually tell people what you're doing. Or is it actually just giving money away and saying, well, we don't really know? When you see investments going into countries, for instance, that already have their own space programme, this seems a little odd.
Well, that's but a good question. Justin, thank you as usual.
Thanks,
Always
Justin.
very
My pleasure.
informative and entertaining. Thank you very much indeed.